Hello everyone, and welcome to another installment of Erin's Book Club. I was homesick for the most of the day, or for all of the day today, and getting out of bed was just not going to happen. So, as such, I have a book review for you guys to do. The book review I have to do today is Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. And before I go any further, I do want to say that this will not be a spoiler-free book because, again, I like to talk about all of the books when I'm doing my review. Secondly, I have to go into this saying I was totally not prepared for this read. Like, totally not prepared. I had an inkling that it was about a post-apocalyptic... Wow, I can't talk today. Again, not feeling well. Post-apocalyptic... whatever. So after war or after upheaval world, that women became lesser than what they were. That's what I went into the book about. In fact, I'm going to read the back of it. All right. In Margaret Atwood's dystopian future, I should have used that word, dystopian, instead of dystopian. So in Margaret Atwood's dystopian future, environmental disasters, declining birth rates have led to a second American Civil War. The result is the rise of the Republic of Geeland, a totalitarian regime that enforces rigid, strict social rules and enslaves the few remaining fertile females. Offred is one of these, a handmaid bound to produce children for one of Geeland's commanders. Deprived of her husband, her children, her freedom, and even her own name, Offred clings to her memories and her will to survive. At once a scathing satire, an ominous warning, and a tour de force of a narrative suspense, The Handmaid's Tale is a modern classic. So yes, it in the back it tells you it dives into some pretty sensitive, harsh topics. I have never read a book quite like this. This is a raw, real, bitter, angry, depressing, sad book that parallels what's going on in our own world to a T. There are details in this book that I think we as the human race should pay particular attention to, lest our world becomes exactly like this. And again, it's scary because it's so very familiar to what we're dealing with. In our own society with COVID and everything else that's going on. There are so many things about it. Like, first and foremost, you look at the cover, and at first I thought, well, this is kind of a boring cover. It doesn't really have anything to do with the story. But that's the whole point. That's the whole point. At first glance and at first read, when you don't look too deep, it's just a depressing, dystopian kind of world. But this very picture defines the meaning of the book. This is a female that's molded into a dress that could look like blood, where all identity is taken away and it's only used as a birthing machine. And you're only valued as a birthing machine. And you're suppressed by men. And the outlooks of some of the men is so diluted and just so out there. And you wonder how it got to that point, and it's the same thing. Like, it's coming to that point in our society now. Like, you can put a frog in cold water and put it on a slow boil, and it'll be dead before it jumps out. It's the same kind of warning in this book. There is just so much depression and sadness and evil. Like, I made a note too, because we all know my love of cats, but there's a part here in the book where the hardest part for the entire book for me to read, and it was the closest I ever got to skipping a part in a book, was when the main, protagonist and her family decide that they need to run away, that they need to try to get away from all of this and escape. They pack up their family and they realize that they have to do something about their pet cat because they can't take their cat with them, because it'll look too suspicious. But they can't let the cat loose because the cat will be mewing at the door and tipping off the neighbors, and the neighbors will call the authorities to tell them that they're trying to run away. So in the end, they kill their pet cat. Like, the husband has to drag their pet cat out from underneath the bed, take it in the garage, and kill it. And as difficult as that was to read through, in the end it didn't matter because somebody found out about what they were going to do and warned the authorities anyway. So it was a heartbreak, and it was like a worthless heartbreak. But in that worthlessness, that's where the meaning comes from. The fact that we can kill our loved ones, our pets, and turn in on our family to survive. How the human race is going to do what it needs to do to survive, and then individuals will work the system however they can to survive, and that "to survive" phrase makes it all okay. So at the time we can commit these atrocities, these inhumanities, but because we're doing it to survive, it's okay. We can write that off. You can either do that or die, you know. So in order to survive, you need to be evil, or partly evil. And like there was some touching on, before the fertility thing became a problem, most of the doctors that used to help with abortions and birth control and that kind of thing went underground, because what the new regime started doing was hunting these guys down and hanging them and then putting them on a wall for public display. It's a difficult read. Like, I have sickness in the pit of my stomach that has nothing to do with why I had to stay home from work. It's ugly. It's ugly. But everybody needs to read this because it's poignant. And above all of that, even though it's ugly, the writing style is so amazing. I guess the prose are just... It's a work of art. There's almost fluffy language used, and at the same point, fluffy language used to do some pretty horrid things in the book. It's a difficult read. It's difficult to follow the read if you don't sit down and pay attention, and I think that's why Margaret did it this way. I think in her way, this is her saying, you either need to sit down and pay attention to this, or don't even bother. Because if you just kind of try to skim the pages, there are so many flashbacks to when society was normal, the way we see society as, that if you don't follow through, you'll kind of get lost. So in her own ingenious way, the author has made it so that you need to kind of turn off all distractions and read the book and hear the lessons and listen to the details and understand what's going on, and maybe wake up a bit to what our society is planning. I went into this book fully expecting to read through this and buy the sequel. And I'm happy I read it. I don't regret reading it, but I don't know if I'm ready for the sequel. It was a very hard read, like to the point where most of the book I had to read through an audiobook version of it because I found it difficult to follow because it was that painful. Yeah, I don't know how soon I'm going to get the sequel from it, because difficult book. But anyway, I do think everybody should read it. I do think everybody should read it with an open mind and maybe think about some kind of education through this book. Yeah, definitely a challenge. Definitely, I can see how it's going to be a classic. So, thank you for listening to me, and I will let you guys know when I have another book read. Thanks, guys.